Hello again. Glad you've joined me. We're in chapter 6 of the book of Ephesians, a wonderful book, verse 11. We've just come into an amazing passage on knowing the power of God as a born-again believer. The last verse introduced the concept to take up the power of God as Christians. Verse 11, which we'll discuss today, begins to tell us how to do that and why, the enemy that we face. So basically, Paul says, put on the whole armor of God that you may be able to withstand the wiles of the devil. So he's telling us two important things. First off, to put on, basically in the Greek, to clothe yourself. And it tells us it's an active process. This is something that we have to do. God helps, but he allows us to initiate our growth in Scripture and this power-possessing process, and put on the whole armor of God. Well, what does that mean? Well, the image that's to follow in the next, in a few verses from now, from basically verses 13 to 17, describes the armor of God and the power associated with each piece. So this is basically the armor that the Greek hoplite infantry soldier had back during that time. That the Romans emulated to some extent, at least early in their career. The Greeks were known as vicious fighters in the ancient times, and their phalanx maneuvering technique, which became world known for its efficacy. So these were soldiers who were efficacious and valued, and they had a set of armor which Paul relates then to the power of God, and that is upcoming. So we are to take up and put on this armor. Why? So we can withstand the devil. So we all face issues in our life. We all want to know the power of God, both spiritually and probably temporally in the issues that we face. But he relates to us in this passage that the enemy isn't maybe your boss or a colleague, somebody on the practice field. The enemy is Satan. Why is that? Well, it's because the evil that we face in the world and that we see today, whether it's overseas with despotic regimes, sex slavery, persecution of Christians, wars, particularly religious wars among other religions, to even what we see here today. Things that just seem incredible that have come about. Abortion, and to the point where the mother, after the birth of the child, the people who hate God say that she can still choose whether to kill it or not. Urging young people underage into sex slavery and prostitution, to have sex early, to consider changing their gender identity. It doesn't matter what the psychological impact of these are, and they've been shown in the medical literature not to be healthy for people, what the God-haters push. But it's an effort to destroy Christianity and things that just seem completely nonsensical. And they are. But they're from Satan. You can't believe that people would believe this. But Satan, that Scripture says, even back in chapter 2 of Ephesians, that people who don't know God just can't say no to Satan. And once it influences the culture, they can't say no to the culture as well. So this is important. Christians don't typically think in those terms, but we have to realize this evil has been here and God-haters since the beginning of the world, and that is our true enemy. As we put on the armor of God, that is who we face. So thanks for joining me in this important verse. We'll continue the discussion and then get into the meat of the armor, starting in verse 13. God is so wise and is such a help that he's put that truth in Scripture. And so I'm glad you've joined me to learn it. See you next time.